Stapleton from Vineyard Road, and I'm going to be presenting the 12 wines that are featured for the November lineup at Spirited Gourmet. So let's dig in. We'll start with Bubbles, because there's no better place to start than Bubbles. This is a Crémant de Loire from Arnaud Lambert. So the Loire Valley in western France, beautiful area of castles. They make several different styles of wine, and Crémant is one of the best styles of wine, I think, that they produce there. Arnaud Lambert is well educated not only in wine, but he also has a degree in cooperage and in business. So he knows a lot about everything surrounding this. And this wine is produced from primarily Chenin Blanc, the star white grape of the Loire Valley, and Chardonnay as well. He's located in the Saumur region specifically, and this wine is made in what you could say in other areas, Champagne specifically, méthode champenoise. Here we don't say that because it is not champagne, but that means it's traditional method of second fermentation in the bottle with extended aging on lees. Gives a little bit of toastiness, extra body and texture. So this would of course go with many foods or just by itself as an aperitif. It's perfect. For the first white, we will go to Bohigas. So this one is interesting. This is from Spain, and it's from the area of Penedès, which is near Barcelona, traditionally known for cava, sparkling wine, made in the traditional method as well. But in this case, it's something different. It's a still wine made from one of the native grape varieties of Xarel-lo. Xarel-lo thrives here because it's a little bit higher in elevation than some of the surrounding areas, and the evenings are cool, and the Xarel-lo maintains bright acidity and really accentuates those pretty flavors of green apple and citrus that make it so delicious. The Bohigas family has been in the area for generations, 800 years, a little bit over 800 years. So they've been at this for a long time, and they make some beautiful wines. So something unique, something that is traditional yet new as well. Then we're going to move to Greece. So a little bit further southeast in the Mediterranean. Greece is blowing up on the wine stage. We have received so many excellent quality wines from Greece lately. So if you haven't jumped on the Greek train yet, now's the time. This is from the varietal Moschofilero. It's a mouthful, Moschofilero, and it's produced in the Peloponnese, the southern area of Greece in the Peloponnese, on a plateau up at about 700 meters. In Mantinia is the region. That's where Moschofilero really thrives. The Troupis winery had the idea to make Moschofilero in a form that was sort of untouched in its natural form, for lack of a better term. So Moschofilero is a pink skin grape. You can see a little bit of color here because they let the skins with the juice for a bit in the same way that orange wine is produced. Then they bottle it unfiltered, so you really get the full flavor. It could be a great accompaniment to the Thanksgiving turkey, for example. Now we'll go to Germany, to this lovely bottle. And Germany is famous for Riesling. Riesling is one of the noble grapes of the world, given a bad rap in recent years, and several people may think that it is always sticky sweet and unexciting. Couldn't be farther from the truth, especially for the high quality Rieslings from the top areas. This is certainly from one of those areas, the Mosel Valley, a very cold area with steep, treacherous slopes so that the sun can be intercepted enough to ripen the grapes. So this is made by Florian Lauer, kind of a cult figure at this point in Germany. His top wines are highly sought after. The Barrel X Riesling is made in a slightly off-dry style, which balances the really high acidity and makes it wonderfully refreshing. I happen to be a big fan of Riesling for Thanksgiving because it has slightly lower alcohol and refreshes your palate when you're eating a lot of heavy foods. So this ideally would be my bottle this Thanksgiving. Now we'll go to the US. This is a winery called Harmeyer. Craig Harmeyer grew up in restaurants in Sacramento. His parents owned restaurants, and so he got to know wines early on and was especially inspired by the Chenin Blancs of the Loire Valley. We talked about that a little earlier. They're bright, they're vibrant, they've got great minerality, and he wanted to make some near his hometown in Sacramento. So he produced this bottling from the Clarksburg American Viticultural Area, the AVA, and it's from a single vineyard there. He picks the grapes a little bit early. It is a warm area, and by picking them early, it maintains beautiful freshness, giving it kind of that verve and that edge that you can find sometimes in the Loire Valley Chenins. He also employs very hands-off method, very gentle pressing by foot treading, bottles unfined and unfiltered. It's a really unique American bottling that I think will be delicious with cheese plates, for example. Now on to reds. So for our first red, we're in France. No better place to start, I think, for reds than France. And we're in the Rhone Valley. The southern Rhone has a Mediterranean climate, and the grapes here are primarily Grenache and Syrah. This is a property, Piogier, that is owned by Marc and Sophie Autran, who are the 4th generation growers here, along with their daughter, the 5th generation, who's becoming more involved. And this is the land of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Gigondas, where you have some intense, really rich wines. But this is grown near the town of Sablé, and it's Côte du Rhône appellation, and it is fermented and aged in concrete, allowing the fruit to just kind of gently express the nice fruity notes, silky soft tannins, easygoing and easy to love. Anybody you pour this for will enjoy this wine, I believe. Now, we're going to go actually back to the US to Harmeyer again and experience one of their Syrahs. So in addition to being inspired by Chenin Blanc, Craig was also inspired by the Syrahs of the Northern Rhone, which have a bit of a wilder note, some pepper. And he makes this Syrah from the Lodi appellation in one of the cooler spots of the Lodi appellation where the Pacific influence can reach inward. And this allows the grapes to get really ripe during the warm days, but then at night it cools off and it allows the acidity to remain in the grapes. So you have this really bright, unique style of domestic Syrah that is super refreshing and juicy and crushable. Now we will go to Beaujolais, so back to France, and we're going to go a little bit further north from the Rhone. And this is a winery called Paul Janin. And Beaujolais is technically part of Burgundy, but it is the southern area, and instead of focusing on Pinot Noir, it's the Gamay grape. So different grape, a little bit more tannins, some black fruit notes. It can be made in a very juicy, light style, or it can be made in a more serious vinous style, as in Burgundy. This is one of the latter. So Moulin à Vent is one of the 10 top crus of Beaujolais, and that is where this comes from. The Janin family has been there for over 100 years, so they have a lot of experience in the area. Biodynamically farmed vineyards and fun, those juicy fruit notes of Gamay, but also quite serious in style. Now, we're going to jump back to the U.S., to the Two Mountain Winery in Washington. Washington State is another one that has not yet been discovered by many, but is becoming more popular. So the northwestern part of Washington is, of course, cold and rainy when we think of Seattle, but the Cascade Mountains, once you go across them, they protect the area there, the vineyard area, from all of that cold, wet rain. So the grapes have a chance to ripen happily and slowly in the warm, dry sun. That's the case with this winery. Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Malbec, so Bordeaux-style grapes that work very well in this area. And it's an all-American wine story. It's two brothers who planted their grandfather's vineyard with their uncle and eventually bought it and used that to found this winery. The tannins here are nice and chewy, round. There's a bit of spice from a passage in oak. Delicious fall wine. Now back to Europe, to Pingus. Dominio de Pingus. This is one of the flagship wineries of Spain. It's in the Ribera del Duero region, if you're driving straight north of Madrid on a plateau where there's high elevation. Another situation where the grapes get a lot of sunlight during the day and they get nice and ripe. And then at night it cools off a little bit so they can maintain balance in the wine. This is Tempranillo, or Tinto Fino, as they call it there in Ribera del Duero. And the Sai wine is unique. The founder, Peter Sissek, decided that he wanted to save some of the old Tempranillo vines in Ribera del Duero. And so he has worked with local farmers to incentivize them not to pull them up and to instead begin farming organically and biodynamically to get great fruit in exchange for the promise to buy that fruit from them to make this wine. So it works for everyone. You get a chance to taste a Pingus wine without paying hundreds of dollars, and the farmers are able to bring these vines back to life and produce a very exciting wine. And then Valpolicella. So this is Italy. So now we're in the Veneto region. Valpolicella is the small appellation for the wine, and it's just north of the town of Verona, of Romeo and Juliet fame. The grape here is generally a blend based on Corvina. Tommaso Bussola is also obsessed with Corvinone, which is another grape there, trickier to work with in the vineyard, but it's well worth it if you put the time in. It adds extra complexity and body to the wine. It's made in a method called ripasso, hence the name. And ripasso is a method whereby they take the skins from Amarone, the famous big, burly, super complex wine that's made there, take the skins from that production and repass it into the juice of Valpolicella, boosting the alcohol a little bit, the complexity, the tannins, the flavors, and adding a little bit of a dried fruit note to it. So this, to me, is the perfect wine either with grilled meats or just sitting by the fireplace. finally, dessert wine, because we have to have a little sweet at the end. This is Bigarro. And this is from the Piedmont region of Italy, in the eastern part, east of the famous Barolo-Barbaresco zone. And Asti has traditionally been famous for Moscato. This is half Moscato. But Stefano Peroni, the current generation, decided he wanted to do something a little bit different. So he blended it with the other native grape, Brichetto. Brichetto brings the color, brings the wild strawberry and herbal aromas, and just makes it happiness in a bottle. This is delightful, it's frizzante, and it has a complex method of production, but you would never know it when you pop the bottle and drink it at brunch, for dessert, or just with friends. So this is the lineup. I hope you find many things that work for you for this November. They are in stock at Spirited Gourmet. Until they're not, enjoy.